You sit down to eat, and within seconds they are there, not making noise, not jumping, not doing anything you could reasonably correct, just staring, with an intensity that borders on uncomfortable. Eyes locked on your plate, or your face, or somewhere in between, with a focus they rarely bring to anything else in their day, and you either cave and give them something, or you ignore it, or you feel vaguely guilty for the entire duration of your meal because there is a creature at your feet who appears to be experiencing genuine suffering over your pasta. Most owners assume this is about food, simple, uncomplicated hunger or desire. The dog wants what you have, and they are asking for it in the only way available to them. But the stare while you eat is carrying more than that. Several things, actually, layered on top of each other in a way that explains why it is so consistent, so intense, and so specifically directed at you rather than at the food itself. It starts with evolution. To understand the mealtime stare, you have to go back to where dogs came from and what food meant in that context. In pack living, meals are social events. Who eats, in what order, with access to what resources? These are not neutral logistical facts. They are expressions of social structure. The higher ranking members of a group eat first, or eat the best portions, or control access to the food entirely. Lower ranking members wait, watch, and take what is offered or what remains. This is not ancient history that no longer applies to your domestic dog. The social architecture of food is still running in the background of their psychology. When you eat, you are, from your dog's instinctive perspective, a higher ranking pack member consuming a resource. And the appropriate behavior for a socially aware pack member in that situation is exactly what your dog is doing. Staying close, staying visible, monitoring the situation, and waiting to see if anything comes their way. The stare is not rude. It is socially correct behavior for the world their instincts were built for. The fact that you are eating a bowl of cereal at a kitchen table rather than a freshly caught animal at a kill site does not register as a meaningful distinction to the part of their brain running this program. But it is not just about the food. Here's the piece that changes how you read the stare once you understand it. The intensity of the mealtime stare is not entirely proportional to hunger. A dog that has just eaten, a dog with a full bowl in the next room, a dog who is not particularly food motivated, all of these dogs can and do produce the same fixed, unwavering mealtime gaze, which means something other than simple appetite is driving it. What is also driving it is attention. Mealtime, for many dogs, is one of the most reliable moments of the day when their owner is stationary, accessible, and not actively engaged in something that competes with interaction. You are sitting down. You are relatively still. You are not on your phone in the same way or rushing between tasks. And your dog has learned, through years of accumulated experience, that this particular window is one where engagement is possible. The stare is partly a bid for that engagement. It is the dog making themselves visible and present during a moment when visibility is most likely to produce a result. They are not just asking for food, they are asking for contact, for acknowledgement, for the particular quality of attention that a stationary, present human can offer. What the eyes are actually doing. The mechanics of the mealtime stare are worth understanding because they reveal how much cognitive work your dog is doing during what looks like passive waiting. Your dog is not staring at a fixed point. They are reading you continuously, tracking micro movements of your hand toward the plate, monitoring the position of the food relative to your mouth, watching your face for signals of mood, attention, and likelihood of sharing, processing the scent information that tells them what you are eating, whether it is something they have received before, and how strongly it registers as desirable. Research on dog gaze behavior has shown that dogs track human eye movements during food-related tasks with remarkable precision, following the direction of an owner's gaze to predict where food will come from before it moves. They are not waiting passively. They are actively modeling your behavior in real time to anticipate what comes next. The stare is focused because the task is cognitively demanding. Your dog is running a continuous predictive model of you during every meal, and the data they are collecting includes far more than food-related information. The social dimension, sharing as bonding. There's a dimension to the mealtime stare that almost never gets discussed, and it reframes the entire behavior once you see it. In pack social life, food sharing is one of the primary mechanisms of bond reinforcement. Sharing a resource with another individual is not just a practical act. It is a social statement. It communicates trust, regard, and inclusion. I am letting you have some of what I have. You are part of my group in a way that entitles you to this. Your dog asking to share your meal is not only about the food, it is about being included in a social ritual, being acknowledged as someone worth sharing with. The act of receiving even a small piece of what you are eating carries social meaning that is disproportionate to its caloric value. This is why dogs who are occasionally given a small piece of food during family meals often seem more settled and content during those meals, not because they are less hungry, but because the inclusion itself has been acknowledged. They were seen. They were counted in. What you are actually teaching them here is the practical dimension most owners never think about carefully enough. Every time your dog stares at you while you eat, they are running an experiment. The question is consistent. Does this behavior produce the outcome I want? And the data they collect from your response shapes the behavior going forward? If the stare reliably produces food, even occasionally, even inconsistently, the behavior gets reinforced and intensifies. Intermittent reinforcement, as behavioral science has demonstrated repeatedly, produces the most persistent and resistant to extinction behaviors of all. The dog that gets food sometimes when they stare will stare harder and longer than the dog that gets food every time or never. If the stare produces nothing consistently across many repetitions, it gradually loses its function and diminishes. Not immediately, not without persistence on your part, but reliably over time. And if the stare produces a different kind of response, not food, but genuine acknowledgement, eye contact, a warm word, a moment of real connection, something interesting happens. The behavior can shift from food seeking to contact seeking. The dog learns that meal times are a moment of connection rather than a moment of petition, which is a fundamentally healthier dynamic for both of you. What to actually do? The question most owners arrive at eventually is simple. Should I feed my dog from the table or not? The honest answer is that the behavior itself is less important than the consistency of your response to it. If you choose not to feed from the table, commit to it completely. Every exception resets the experiment and restores the behavior. Give your dog something to do during your meals instead. A chew, a puzzle feeder, a mat they are trained to settle on. You are not punishing them for asking. You are redirecting the asking towards something that works better for both of you. If you choose to occasionally share food with your dog, do it on your terms, not theirs. Not in response to the stare, not when they are actively petitioning. When you decide, when the meal is finished, when the behavior you are rewarding is settled calm rather than fixed demanding gaze. You are teaching them that patience and quiet get the result, not intensity. What serves neither of you is the middle ground most owners occupy, sometimes caving to the stare, sometimes ignoring it, feeling guilty either way, never quite resolving what the mealtime interaction is supposed to be. Decide, be consistent, and understand that whatever you decide, your dog will adapt. Because adapting to you is what they have always been best at. The mealtime stare is not manipulation. It is not rudeness. It is an ancient social behavior, a bid for inclusion, a continuous reading of the person they are most attuned to, all wrapped up in a gaze that most owners spend years misreading as simple greed. Your dog is not just asking for your food. They are asking to be part of what you are doing, to be counted in, to matter during one of the small, daily rituals that make up a life shared between two species. That is worth understanding, even when it makes eating pasta slightly uncomfortable. Drop a comment. I read every single one. Subscribe. New video every week. See you next time.